Yeah,
I was just saying my name.
Martin.
Oh, the
You
Latin
love saying
version of
your
my name.
Martin.
Oh, there's Adrian trying to do it and roll her R's.
Well, yeah, there's no R trilling.
No rolling.
Martin.
Martin. Yes, Martin. It just kind of comes off your tongue like that.
It's time for Bourbon with Friends, the bourbon podcast that never takes itself too seriously. Pull up a chair, grab a glass, and remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bourbon with Friends. Myself, Adrian, and Martin are here to talk about whiskeys from around the world and how a bourbon with friends can change the world. How are you guys after this wonderful weekend that you guys had together?
By the way, if anyone's watching the video, I didn't just fart there. I would just like my eye just like hurt, but it looked like I farted, so I didn't want anyone watching the video to be like,
"Look like that."
Yeah. So I'm just letting everyone know. I'm just letting if you see, yeah. So that's not what I was doing. No, this weekend was awesome. Yeah, we got to have a little friendsgiving at our good friend Rob. Shout out to Rob's Garage for the hospitality. We drank a lot of whiskey, sang a lot of rap songs, rapped a lot of rap songs. Yeah, I got to hang out. Good food all weekend.
Yep.
Even better.
Yeah. What do you think, Adrian? What do you think of the garage?
I loved it. It seemed like it was something that was a long time coming. Like I should have been there a long time before now, but I finally made it. I got to see it firsthand. So I mean,
you should preface people who don't know what you're talking about. That's just like telling Adrian, I threw in a garage. It was nice. The walls were painted.
Yeah. We didn't just sit in we did technically sit in a garage. So our buddy Rob, for people who don't know, he does have a very well done up garage. It's basically like kind of like a bar and a lot of like kind of like a dive bar kind of thing. And he's again, we got to go over there. That was Adrian's first time. I've been there quite a few times, but it was a lot of fun. But what about you, Brian? How's your weekend?
Good. Went around, killed an animal, brought it home.
Oh, that's right.
Cut out part of it, and I'm gonna send it to you.
Is it the?
Are you serious?
Oh yeah, it's that part. Yep.
The undercarriage.
Well, it's the part that you wanted to try.
She's gonna just pin it to her wall behind her.
Yeah, right there.
Like, what is that?
Oh God, yeah, I'm not sure you want to do that, but we could go with it.
Yeah. But it is Brian is, and I feel like you're more equipped to talk about this, but today is Veterans Day. If you wanted to do a little intro to who we're talking to today.
It is Veterans Day, and yeah, we have an amazing individual that's going to be coming on, and from a pretty well-known place in Clarksville, Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to let him introduce his own company. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome Matt Cunningham. So Matt, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're gonna start doing that for guests and stuff. We're gonna start just clapping.
I know, we need a clap. I'm a clapper.
Like it's Oprah or something. Yeah.
Immediately, as soon as I popped on.
Or start snaps.
Welcome.
Oh God.
So I'm Matt Cunningham. I'm the founder of Old Glory Distilling Company in Clarksville, Tennessee. We're a family-owned, operated distillery that my wife and I run with our 2-year-old half the time with us. So we've been open since 2016. This was an idea I had when I was 22 years old back in 2012, and took a few years to bring concept to reality. But something that we're super proud of is we produce absolutely everything from scratch. Every drop of whiskey that we've ever sold has been product that we've ground the grain and cooked, fermented, distilled, and aged all on site. And so we're really excited to be where we're at, where we've got some 5-6-year-old product starting to hit the market. And for us, that was kind of a starting line. We haven't distributed very much until now. We're just now starting to distribute outside of Clarksville. And that was on purpose to make sure that every bottle that you pick up is going to be able to compete with everybody else on the shelf. So that's my quick intro there.
All right, that's
It's a great intro.
Yeah,
that was really good.
It was wonderful. I did read a little bit about you yourself on the Old Glory Distilling page, and that you used to be a fireman. You have a degree in finance management. So, but it didn't talk about is how you came to love whiskey. Like, how did you begin, and even just trying whiskey, drinking whiskey? Like, I'm curious about that journey.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, for starters, when I first started trying whiskey, I had no idea how it was made. It was this drink that, when you first start drinking whiskey, most people aren't drinking it straight, and I was right there included in that group. But shortly after, I'm a curious guy by nature, and so I wanted to taste it like it was, and I've always been a quality over quantity type of person. I've never been a big partier or anything like that. So, I mean, I naturally gravitated towards interesting things. And those first few bottles that weren't bottom shelf, were exciting. And I think that's where it started. After I graduated from school, I moved back home. And started working for the fire department. Got really curious as to how the product itself was made, and that was where I think my passion for it all started. Finding out that this product is as genuine as it comes. Corn, wheat, rye, barley, straight from the farms. You're literally producing it the same ways that it was originally produced. There's a lot of ways that. There are a lot of things now where people found some shortcuts, but bourbon is just not one of them. And I love that aspect of it. Wanted to bring that to my hometown to create a hometown product that Clarksville would be proud of. And that's kind of how it started. Out of curiosity more than anything. So
that's cool.
Yeah, and you kind of answered the next question that I was going to ask, but you said that this is something that you had kind of always been thinking about. Like, I guess the process that I'm always interested in when people start something like this, because it is such a crazy kind of endeavor to think like, I'm going to start a distillery. A lot of like most of the time people probably aren't saying that, right? They're like saying, today I'm going to start a distillery. What's that kind of research process for you look like? Like, did you go around to a bunch of different distilleries to kind of get get an idea about it? Did you know people already kind of in the industry?
No, I didn't know people in the industry at the time. And at the time, it was the craft industry in particular was still super, super young. And so what was neat about that was everybody was very open at the time because nobody really knew what they were doing, but they were willing to let you know whatever they had going on and kind of fill you in on what they knew and who that they talked to. And so my dad and I traveled around to a few other smaller operations and spent some time with them and learned from those guys and learned who they learned from. And I say this all the time, but I went down a rabbit hole with it too, just reading everything that was out there, which wasn't much, but everywhere you went, somebody else turned you on to something else. And now there's an exorbitant amount of information out there, but at the time there really wasn't. And so I went down that rabbit hole and I never pulled myself back out of
it. Well, it's not like we couldn't tell from where you're currently at today with everything that you have in your company, plus your restaurant now that you have and venue in addition to that. So that's quite amazing. Before we get into that, can you explain the bottle that you sent over to all three of us and a little bit about that? And let's just go through those notes that you have with it and everything that goes with this singular bottle.
Yeah. So what I sent you guys, yep, you got it right there. This is our Tennessee bourbon bottled in bond. It's obviously 100 proof. Every barrel in here is 5 years old. So this was a 5-year-old blend of about 6 different barrels. Pour some too. The mash bill on our Tennessee bourbon is a 73% corn, 19% rye, and 8% malted barley. Everything in this bottle was all pot distilled. So we currently run a 500-gallon pot still and a 14-inch continuous column. We started off on that pot still, and so all of the product in here is 5-year-old pot distilled.
Got it.
Our barrels, all of our barrels come from Kelvin Cooperage outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And so one of the things that I love about Kelvin's barrels are the way they fire them. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, they're not fired with natural gas. When the trimmings of their wood from the barrels themselves, they've got these fires created, and that's how these barrels are fired and charred. And so love that about it. We use number 4 char barrel for our Tennessee bourbon product in particular.
Nice.
And so really love the product that comes out of them. So
Yes, it's got such a crazy color. Adrian had poured hers first, and I know it's like
the color is magnificent. It's a beautiful color.
yeah.
I'm a sucker.
Notice how she poured half the bottle in one glass.
Yeah. Was a heavy pour there, Adrian?
It's going to be a heavy one pour. That's what we're doing here tonight.
Heavy one pour.
Yeah.
Smells amazing.
Yeah, it does. It's got a great nose to it.
I don't know
Yeah,
what
it
kind of
does.
notes I would.
That's
Sounding
very
like
good.
kind of cherry kind of.
Yeah.
I'll let you guys know what I think tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
That's right.
You do have the single barrel though, correct?
I do. I have a single barrel, the Tennessee whiskey.
Okay.
And this is barrel number 154 at bottle number 19 out of 184 at 125.93 proof.
I was going to say, what's the proof? Because ours is 100, so
A little bit more.
Yeah.
a little bit. Just a smidge.
Was there ever a moment when you thought you may source when you first started out?
No.
That's cool. I like that.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was something we were adamant about when we first started. And we never considered it. And nothing against sourcing.
No,
There's a phenomenal whiskey out there that's sourced. And we a part of our business is contract distilling and bottling for some other brands too. So we're thankful for that aspect. But for us, we from the get-go, we said if it was going to have our name on it, we were going to make it from scratch. And part of being 22 years old when you have an idea is you think you're Superman and nothing can stop you, and you just
Look where you are, though.
Well,
I mean, think of it that way.
Yeah, I jokingly say people are like, man, I don't know that I could do it, and like I don't know if I could do it again either. It was my ignorance that got me here. No, I do say that jokingly, but there's a little bit of truth in saying that there's some naivety that helped.
Of course,
and not knowing what you had ahead of you. And
well, if you knew it was going to be that hard, you'd have never done it, right?
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
You
hear that a lot.
I don't know.
You also have grew up in a family with a mentality of you hit a hurdle, you figure out a way over it, and you move on.
100%.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, absolutely.
That's kind of been our approach.
We enjoy I personally think the grain to glass is cool. I work for a grain to glass distillery. They started their business the same year that you did. So it's family run, and it's I don't know, there's something very special about that when you go to places like that there's just a touch there that isn't with other places. So
yeah, a lot of times you can walk into them and feel it when you walk in. And I feel like we're the same way as we've grown significantly, but those are things that we try to keep at the forefront too. Is those things that got you to where you are, and it is that close family mindset that not only do we have as the family that runs it, but so many of our key team members have been with us, my gosh, for 5, 6, 7 years. And I feel like we do have a great team. There's no question about that.
Well, I've met some of your team and I can say they're great. Your staff was extremely knowledgeable when I was there. They were very polite, very curious, and very inviting. And your food was absolutely fucking amazing. Excuse the language.
He was talking about
it was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, it looked
it
amazing.
really
I saw
was.
the pictures.
Everybody's done a phenomenal job pulling that together. And when my wife and I were discussing what are the next steps for our brand, we wanted to create a home place for the brand where people could come and not only take that tour and tasting and see how it's made, but experience it a little more and spend a little more time with us on our little campus, we call it. And so the team that helped us pull that together has done a great job, and they're doing a phenomenal job now too. My wife is the one that oversees the restaurant aspect of it. And so I do a lot on our production side. That's where most of my time is spent. And then she oversees a lot of our brand and restaurant kind of home place operation.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I gotta say, like, just because we've been visiting some distilleries, and I've been visiting distilleries for quite a number of years, but to me, it's the experience ones where it's not just the distillery, not just coming there to check out the whiskey. It's a whole all-in-one. There's, restaurants. Sometimes they have other things like, I'm trying to think of the one offhand that's like Starlight down in Borden, Indiana.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got like a farmer's market. They have like an ice cream place. And it's just like, I really like these kind of like destination like experiences.
Yep.
And when I was looking at yours, that's kind of what it looked like. I'm like, I got to try it out. I just love that whole thing. It just makes you feel like it's, because there's so many other opportunities there. Like I go to a place out here called Journeyman, and it was they literally have like their own ketchup that they make with their rye whiskey. So it's just like, I love like little things like that, how you can incorporate like it into like meals and food and other things. So I think that's really
cool. We do the same. Yeah, we do the same thing with our barbecue sauce made with
cool.
Try it.
Something unique. So we smoke all of our meat in house. Just like our bourbon. We led with the mindset of if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it from scratch. And so we're for the most part, we're a scratch kitchen. I say that for the most part because, for example, we don't bake our own hamburger buns. But other things, most everything else we do, we smoke all of our own meat. Most all of our dishes are made from scratch. And with each meat load that goes in, we're using a barrel stave in each meat load. And so there's a little bit of that influence there. It's all oak smoked. And then that barrel stave adds a true touch of the whiskey that
cool.
that we're producing to that too. So it's pretty.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Damn it. Now I'm hungry.
I know.
Now we talked about, so we've got the bottled and bond here. Martin and I do. Brian's got the single barrel. I think there's a small batch, correct?
Yeah.
And then you have other spirits, correct? Do you want to talk about just basically what you have to offer?
Yeah. So 96% of what comes off of our stills is Tennessee bourbon, Tennessee whiskey. So that is our bread and butter. That's what we created Old Glory to be. Being a grain to glass distillery, you can't open your doors and have aged whiskey. And so we spent a lot of time on our other clear spirits and other brands that we've created over the years. So we have a moonshine line, which is really fun. We have Pinup Gin, which is a really unique gin. Also, we distill in house. A Tennessee vodka, which is filtered through maple charcoal. Tennessee whiskey is famous for being maple charcoal filtered. That Lincoln County process that Jack Daniels has made famous. Our vodka is filtered that same way. Those spirits are spirits that we created in the early days as a source of revenue for one, but also to get our name out there. When we started releasing bourbon, we took the Old Glory name off of those spirits, and so that was really to try to mitigate some brand confusion. And there's some distilleries that do it, some distilleries that don't. But as we launch into a market, when you think of Old Glory, we want you to think of a whiskey. We don't want the Old Glory name to bring about the question of what are you good at? Like what is it that you actually do?
I like that, but I like that. I think that's a good idea.
And so now our clear spirits and our moonshine line, they run on their own. They're their own brands, and Old Glory, is a whiskey or a bourbon. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I've got one off the back of that.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Just because, and it's going to be Adrian's favorite question. And I ask whenever, obviously there's a big.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Right now there's like a pretty big boom when it comes to American single malts. Is that something you think you'd ever venture into?
On a large scale, no.
But maybe like a fun one-off just to see kind of thing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to put some away. We've got, obviously quite a few barrels that we're starting to dump, and that's part of our refill program.
Nice.
So it'll be a long while, but
but it's still fun. I'm a huge single malt fan. Adrian, we're trying to get her into it.
It's always the joke that I don't like ASM.
She doesn't like
that's
American
why
single malt.
She doesn't like it at all.
No,
it's always a conversation.
And Brian and I love it. So.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I kind of have a question behind Martin's. What I would ask is, so maybe the ASM is in the future, but is there anything that you have coming out soon that you can talk about or that you want to talk about?
Yeah. So from the early days, we've put away a decent amount of rye whiskey that we've never released, and really excited about that. Only because we've been tasting it, and we're really excited to release it. It won't be something that we have for this holiday season, but we've got some 5-6 year old rye whiskey that's really, really unique and exciting. So
nice.
It's as good as this. I bet it's gonna be lovely.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. So excited about that. And we've always distilled a barrel or two of some various other mash bills. And so next year we're starting a little experimental series where we'll be releasing some of that stuff. And obviously that stuff won't be going out to distribution or anything, but those are really fun products for us to be able to release from our bottle shop, and kind of show off some fun stuff that we've been trying.
Well, I'm not saying let us know, but maybe we could do a podcast.
But on top of that, like, do you have any interest in finishes and that they're not going to be surprised when I say this? I love double oak. Like, that's one of my favorite things. Would that ever be something that you would consider?
Yeah, for sure.
Finish wise.
Yeah. So you like something that's really oak forward, or do you like just the double oaks in general?
Yeah.
Really
just double
oak
oak
forward
in general.
Yeah. So that we haven't done any double oaked products yet. But if you want us to do it, we can throw some in a barrel for you.
I mean, if I'm not big on like finishes per se, but I don't know. But yeah, a double oak is.
Yeah.
If there's one, if I have a choice, then that's one of them. It's probably the one I'm going to pick.
What are some of your favorites that you've had?
I have a Sagamore Spirits double oak rye that I really, really like.
Yeah.
Lately they've been double oaked ryes that I've been after. Trying to think what I have over here that I like that's double oak. I just got a 2XO, and that's double oak. Obviously, that's the Sneakerhead blend. That's really good.
Yeah.
Well, you got that triple oak one. Who gave you got that?
Angel's Envy has a triple oak. I have not tried that, but I would.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I don't have that one, but you can. It's pretty readily available because I've seen it on the shelf in quite a few places.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but
Very, very
Yeah, I
cute.
just bought Pursuit Spirits had a double oak rye that I bought at the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. So yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do that with one of our rye barrels.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That sounds exciting.
Ooh, I would be all about that.
I think a bunch of us would be, especially the people that are listening, because that sounds absolutely amazing and makes me want to drink more, but I need to think about that responsibly.
That's right.
So we get to a question during this time of the show where it may seem a little obscure, but it's fun. Martin, do you want to explain why we do this question, and then I will ask it?
Sure. So on our very first podcast when we took over as host for Bourbon with Friends, there was a squirrel that got inside Adrian's house, and it didn't.
Story.
So
Okay.
I change the story every single time. The real story, actually, I don't even know what the real story is anymore. But basically,
I don't
anymore.
either. I don't either anymore. But it's about me and a squirrel, and that's.
And so now we just ask questions that are related to. It just sort of caught on. So now we just ask questions that are squirrel related, just to kind of switch it up. Because we can get a little whiskey nerdy sometimes. So we want to kind of split it up. So that's what happened. So Adrian got attacked by a squirrel on our first podcast, and now we ask squirrel questions. So
Great.
Yeah, perfect. So at your restaurant, if you had to have a squirrel themed meal, now this doesn't mean it needs to be made out of squirrel, but a squirrel themed meal, what would it be and why?
So maybe just the name has to have something to do with a squirrel in it.
That's fine. That's
totally
fine.
Oh man, I think if we've got a good squirrel story that can line up to it.
I know it's a thinker.
Guide me somewhere. I don't know.
All I'm thinking about is Rocky the squirrel right now, but I don't know if that would help you.
So my wife is a big animal lover, so we probably would not be serving squirrel.
Oh,
you can eat squirrel though. People do it all the time.
It's making it alone.
Yeah. Good grief. You know
that's
what?
why I said squirrel themed. It doesn't have to be like that. It could be in the shape of a squirrel. It could be a nut.
It could be nut. It could be nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the nut direction, and I mean, I think we'd probably lean in towards a cocktail with some nutty notes to it, as opposed to a meal.
I like that.
An acorn martini.
Yeah, or maybe we call it Rocky, the Rocky Martini, or something like that. You brought up Rocky.
Yeah.
And as far as a meal goes, man, I mean,
what about a dessert?
Oh gosh, I don't know about
acorn squash. Acorn squash.
Sure, acorn squash.
He's putting words in his mouth now, Adrian. Great job.
I'm trying to help.
We gave him a tough one.
Oh,
it is a tough one.
We gave him a tough one.
I was thinking like a peanut butter burger.
Explain.
No, peanut.
Peanut squirrels.
Yeah. And I'm pretty literal, and so my mind does go straight to like a squirrel on a skewer that we roasted somehow.
Marshmallow.
They're really good.
Side.
I'm gonna shut up because I'm not gonna get us like kicked out of any more shit because of my comments. I'm sorry. I like eating, and but yeah, there's a bunch of different things. I have some friends who own some restaurants up here where I live, and they did an actual squirrel themed meal because of our podcast.
Yeah,
really?
Yep, they did.
Well,
so that's where this question came from.
poor squirrel got sacrificed for our.
How did they do it?
It wasn't actually squirrel that they used.
Okay.
So it's just a squirrel themed meal. So more nut-based processed foods, natural grains and oats, things of that nature, and then they did it in, I think it was a duck for one of the meals and bison for the other one of the meals. But they did two different types of meals and said it's squirrely on which one you're going to get. So you don't know.
Both sound delicious. It doesn't sound like it could go wrong.
Yeah.
No.
You get the third option. It's actually a squirrel. Like this meat's tender.
He would actually do that for me, so that kind of scares me.
All I can see is, you know how you get a fish on a platter and you can see its eyes? Like, that's all I'm seeing is a squirrel,
But a squirrel?
on a plate right now.
Starfishing?
I can't unsee it.
Well,
okay.
you got to think about a pig on a
Sorry.
roast. Same thing.
It's kind of the same
Right.
thing. Yeah.
With an apple in his mouth,
All right.
the works.
Yeah, we could just do an acorn in the mouth instead.
I know.
I was going to say, a walnut, I don't know.
I really hope Pete is listening to this because they love it. We talked about dead animals pretty much the entire podcast.
I'm excited about it.
Now to get back to the whiskey. You actually talked a little bit about this in some of your answers so far, but one thing I like to do just to kind of paint the picture for those who cannot make it to the distillery is to kind of give a walkthrough of the distillery equipment that we would see if we walked into your distillery.
Yeah. So we do produce everything and take every step, all on site, starting with a hammer mill. So all of our grains are hammer milled. They're hammer milled and augered over to a 2,500 gallon mash cooker. It's a steam injected mash cooker. And so it doesn't heat through steam coils. Steam is actually injected directly into the pot itself. That 2,500 gallon mash cooker is once we're done cooking, transferred to one of 6 2,500 gallon fermentation tanks. We ferment everything open top. Yes. So all of our fermenters are open top from the mezzanine. You can access them all, see everything happening, all the fermentation. Nice. On that same mezzanine, there's a beer well. So the beer well is a little bit larger than the fermentation tank. So that beer well is about 3,000 gallons. And all a beer well does is just keep that fermented beer mixed up because we ferment on the grain. We don't filter out any grains when we're fermenting, and then we distill on the grain too. So all of that grain goes straight into our column or our pot still. So that beer well just has an agitator in it, keeps it mixed up. It's 3,000 gallons versus 2,500. That way, as we're nearing the end of one of the tanks and we pump another fermentation tank over, it won't overflow. We don't have to totally empty the tank before we refill it. So that's why it's got 500 gallons of extra capacity. From there, that beer well is where we send it to. Primarily what we're running day in and day out is our 14-inch continuous column. It's from Vendome Copper and Brass and outside of Louisville. It has been a phenomenal piece of equipment that we absolutely love running it. We've got the column itself and then also a doubler that everything runs through. So it's not just the beer column. The final high wine distillate coming off comes through the doubler. From there, we have some various holding tanks that we're either going to filter maple charcoal for some of our Tennessee whiskeys, or just to hold pre-barreling before we proof down. So for us, all of our whiskeys come off of the doubler around 125, 130 proof. So relatively low. We proof down to 120 before it goes into a barrel. So everything is barreled at 120 proof. Okay. From there, it'll go into our barrel house. Our barrel house hold about 10,000 barrels total. It's a palletized warehouse, so we do have some that are on ricks, but the majority of all of our barrels are palletized, 4 to a pallet, stacked 6 high. And right now, our barrel house probably has around 7,000 barrels in it. So
Nice.
we're getting full, but we're starting to dump a good amount too. So in a couple of years, we'll probably need to build another one.
Very nice. Well, I'm absolutely tremendously jealous since I run a distillery myself, and now I want yours
Have
so
many
much
barrels?
with that many barrels.
Yeah.
It's all the same headaches, just a larger scale.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And
I completely understand.
I have a quick question. This one that you sent, would this be, and this is maybe the novice in me, would this be the maple charcoal filtered or no?
It was
No.
not.
Okay.
So that was not
Okay.
maple charcoal filtered.
Okay.
This one was.
But that was
That
that.
one
I
was.
was gonna say that one probably was. Okay.
Yep.
Good to know.
So the maple charcoal filtering process, it's what gives Tennessee whiskey the designation of Tennessee whiskey and not just bourbon.
Yes.
It's a Tennessee state law.
Okay.
And so it's filtered prior to going into the barrel. And that qualifies it as a Tennessee whiskey. So that bottle that you've got, Brian, it technically could be a bourbon.
Yes.
We could label that a bourbon. But we label that Tennessee whiskey because it does meet all those requirements of it. And that mash bill in particular is different than the bourbon that we're drinking tonight. That Tennessee whiskey is a 19% wheat instead of 19% rye.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say I wrote down the mash bill of what we were drinking tonight, and that I was gonna say right now, it's probably why I am enjoying this because of the higher rye content in this. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy our Tennessee whiskey as well. It's got more spice to it than what people typically think of when they think of a wheated bourbon, and that's something that we're super proud of. That at the distillery, when we get somebody that comes in, typically likes those rye bourbons, I'm really excited to pour them the Tennessee whiskey right next to it and see what they think.
Well, I can say it's absolutely amazing, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Adrian, please.
So we have one other question that we always like to ask, and that's a sentimental question. So, do you have a favorite whiskey memory? Something maybe that is a family memory. It could be from when you were a kid. Maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be like you personally drinking the whiskey, but something like that.
The first thing that comes to mind is when my wife Shannon and I, when we got married, we filled 5 barrels on our wedding day, and used those. Cool. We used those barrels as a guest book for everybody that came to our wedding. And so we've got 5 barrels in the warehouse for a 5, 10, 20, and 25 year barrel. I
love that.
They're really
That's
excited.
So cool.
Yeah, really excited to tap into those. Our 5-year anniversary is next year, so we're excited to crack that one open.
Are you having a party? You should have a party.
Golly, throw me some ideas. Shannon talks about this all the time. What are we gonna do with a whole barrel of whiskey?
That's what I mean. Like you should have a party or something.
Yeah.
What a fantastic
Well, let me know.
Way to
Just
celebrate
pull straight from the barrel all night.
That's great. I absolutely love hearing that.
That's really cool.
Sorry,
That's
Brian,
awesome.
I interrupted you.
No, you're good. I have some friends that are artists in the area. Maybe we could have a good get together at your big venue. Perfect. And do some fun and interesting things. And that's all I'm going to say, because it's exciting. It's great. And you guys are doing absolutely amazing.
Thanks. I appreciate it. We get stuck in a bubble a lot, and I know you do too, working on your own. And it's exciting to be able to share it with people outside. So.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. You didn't have to share that. So thank you.
Now we got 3. We have 3 more squirrel questions now for you. So
what the fuck? We really don't. Oh my God, I'm joking.
You see the
You
fear
may
on
not
Matt's face. He's like, damn
You're
it.
like, what?
Yeah, I think I'm swirled out, but throw them at me. Let's do it.
Yeah. I won't do anymore. But genuinely, thanks for coming on the pod, as I call it. We always it's cool hearing all the distiller stuff, but it's cool just to meet you, get to meet the people that we have come on here. It's always a good time, and today was no different. So yeah, definitely thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I know. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a lot of fun to talk shop.
Yeah,
this is definitely no different, even in the digital space. So.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And I mean, we do have people that, to listen, obviously. And it's always cool to introduce people to maybe a brand they're maybe not aware of. And we've been trying to do that, especially more of the craft distilleries, everything like that. We're trying to definitely shine a spotlight on them because it's important. It's to me, my favorite thing in the world is showing someone a whiskey that they weren't aware of, and then I see a bottle on their shelf. That to me is like one of my favorite things. So thank you for
I'm really enjoying this. This is very good. Very, very good.
Thanks so much. I mean, that means a lot that you guys are enjoying it for one, but I mean, just for all the support of the industry means even more. So thanks for what y'all do.
Well, we appreciate it. And every time you have something coming up, we're more than happy to dive in with you and talk about the new and exciting things that you guys have coming out. So please let us know when that happens.
Yeah.
We'll always bring you back on and have a good time.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, Matt, there's one person that has one job right now to do something exciting and adventurous, and that's going to be Martin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it up to him right now to do that one job.
That's right. So we do want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsor. This is 10th Mountain Whiskey, and what better day than today to go visit them at 10thwhiskey.com. Again, this is Veterans Day, and if you do go on there, use the code BWF15 for 15% off anything at 10thwhiskey.com. Why can't I read? We'd love for you to go do that. You can get them in 41 different states through online distribution, as well as 28 states across the country through regular retail distribution. Again, 10thwhiskey.com. And I want to thank 10th Mountain Whiskey for being our sponsor on the podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Finally, thank you so much for everything that you're doing. Thank you for everything that you're supporting in your local community for the veterans that you've done. Thank you for being a first responder as a firefighter yourself and continuing to help out everybody around you in your community and just doing excellence no matter where you're at and who you're with. So it's absolutely positive. It's amazing. And we're honored to have you on the podcast during Veterans Day to support your company, to show the veterans out there in the military and the first responders that everybody's welcome, needed, and you're there for them. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining Bourbon with Friends. And remember, a bourbon with friends can change the world. Have a good day or night. Cheers.
Cheers.
That's it for this episode of Bourbon with Friends. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, leave us a review to make it easier for others to find the show. You can also check us out on Instagram at Bwfpodcast. Thanks for listening.